Hello, everybody, and welcome to War Eagle Weekly Podcast. This is Cameron and Joshua, your host this evening. War Eagle to you, Josh. How you doing, man?
Where you go, Cameron? I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm ready for football season, you know?
Oof, man, I really thought that we'd be talking about Auburn basketball right now and about the NCAA tournament, but here we are.
We've grown. We've moved past it.
Here we are dreaming about football already. So. Speaking of football, this last week On3 released their ranking of SEC coaches, and some of the rankings I kind of agree with, some of them I don't. But Hugh Freeze is ranked number 10. First off, should he be in the top
So
10?
low.
And well, okay, there you go. And secondly,
So low.
is he in the right place? So start us off, Josh. What are you thinking?
Well, first off, I don't think he belongs to the top 10. I just don't think he belongs at number 10. I feel like that's a little low, especially since they have, Lane Kiffin, Josh Heupel, Eli friggin' Drinkowitz, and Mark Stoops, Mike Elko. Mike Elko doesn't deserve to be in the top 10. He should be towards the bottom. He has zero experience in the SEC, and they're using last year against Hugh Freeze for his ranking. They're using that to,
Which
to
they should.
justify his
They
ranking.
should.
Sure, but that's mainly what they're basing the ranking off of is last year. I feel like the top two is
Yeah,
right.
that's fair.
Number three is too high to
Oh
know
yeah,
for sure. That's for damn
yeah.
sure. Kalen DeBoer does not deserve to be number three right now.
No,
Nowhere close.
no. We talked about the a version of the top coaches in college football a few weeks ago when who was it that released their top 25? The
I
Athletic.
can't even
I
remember
think it
his
was the
name.
Athletic. They released their top 25 and we kind of ran down every coach and everything like that. If you want to see our reactions to that, go back a few weeks and watch that video. But I know we talked about it then. You were kind of the same mindset. You thought that Hugh Freeze wasn't ranked as high as he should have been. Hugh Freeze was ranked 25 on that list, I believe. Um, Let me just double check that,
No, it
Josh.
was a list of top 25. It was in the lower
He
25, but
was
he wasn't number
23.
25.
That's right. 23.
Yeah.
Sorry. And Lane Kiffin was one spot ahead of him there. But in that list of the SEC coaches, he was number 8. I personally thought that he was kind of right where he needed to be, if not just a little bit farther back, maybe a little higher. I don't know. It was just one of those things of where hey, what have you done for me lately? And I think you brought up a couple of things that they were basing everything off of last year, and so I think number 10 is kind of fair. I do think some of the coaches they put ahead of them are a little ridiculous. Eli Drinkowitz, again, what have you done for me lately? Last year, he put together a really good season.
Yes.
It was a down year for the SEC East, though. So, how good was it really? Let's see what he does this year. Um,
Then we'll be able to talk more
I
about it. That's for sure.
yeah, I don't know how you can't factor in their coaching career as a whole in the SEC. Outside of the SEC, that's a completely different subject. If you want to talk about that, that's completely different. But in
Oh,
the
they're
SEC,
using
you
that
have
to their
to
advantage for Kalen DeBoer.
and Elko and Elko.
Yeah.
I again, you and me both are 100% on the same page with DeBoer not deserving to be number 3. The dude, his closest connection to the South is Southern Illinois, which ask anybody in the South. Southern Illinois is not part of the South, Josh. I really don't think it is. Right?
No, well, Missouri is not really part of the South either, but here we are.
Oh, yeah, I guess there's that. But um, but yeah, Kalen DeBoer, I think he deserves to be in the top 10 because of his success and,
Yeah,
and
sure.
everything. But you know, there's just no way you put him at number 3. I don't think he's in the top 5.
It's because he took over a juggernaut. That's
Well, yeah,
why.
of course, but it's not talking about programs. Um, but I agree. I think Steve Sarkisian should be number 3 personally. Um,
I was going to say that. I think he deserves to be.
yeah,
They need to switch spots at the very
yeah,
least.
and I'm okay with Lane Kiffin being in the top 5. You
Sure.
know, he's a little kid and he's a little punk, but you
He can
can't.
coach some ball though.
Yeah, you can't argue with his success really. Um, but Mike Elko in the top 10 is a joke. Is a joke.
Dumb, retarded.
Yeah, there's no reason whatsoever he should be in the top 10. Again, like you said about DeBoer, it's because of the school he's at. Texas A&M.
More than likely.
You just gotta think that at some point they're gonna make the right hire, which I think Mike Elko is the right hire for them, but you can't rank him where he's at right now. And so I think that's what they're basing it off of. It's just On3 is usually, I feel, pretty good with their articles and their stuff about Auburn. They're kind of like the anti rivals. Um, rivals. I swear a player commits to Auburn and they automatically jump down
Yeah,
to
lose
a
a
2 or
star.
a 3 star. So
Yeah,
they're
it
kind of
never
the
fails.
anti-rivals, I feel like. But at the same time, this is kind of a joke. I think Hugh Freeze could be 8. I think he could be 8. So
I was thinking 7, so
yeah, right,
right around the same
yeah,
ballpark.
yeah, right around there. I think Josh Heupel at number 6 is perfect. I think he deserves that spot. He's put together some very solid years. He had one really good year and put together some really solid years. I think they're going to be pretty darn good this year as well. Um, but
Well,
I don't think there's, like you said, I don't think there's any debate between 1 and 2. Oh, what are
yeah,
you
I would agree with you.
what are you laughing about?
Oh,
Heupel?
top two are, yeah, we'll see. It's Tennessee. They're freaking cursed, man.
Yeah, eh, there is that, I guess. I thought Brett Venables being ranked higher than Billy Napier is hilarious because I just hate Florida that much, and so I'm all for it. But at the same time, he's really not that good of a coach. So
Billy Napier, no, he's
no.
terrible.
And,
He knows how to recruit. That's about it.
and the other thing, I guarantee you that if this list came out this time last year, do you know who would be a top 5 coach on this list? Shane
Billy
Beamer.
Napier.
Shane
No, it's not
Beamer
Billy Napier.
would be ranked so high. Everyone was like loving this guy coming into last year, and now all of a sudden he's at number 12. He's in the bottom half. Um, so I think that's just freaking hilarious. So
The whole list is a friggin' joke.
yeah,
It's just
it's
their justifications behind the rankings are questionable.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. So moving on from this exhilarating topic about ranking coaches in the off season before we even play any football, let's talk about some of the players. Um, so we have had the longest spring practices known to man, spanning over a month, and you're only allowed, less than 10 practices, I think, with 2 different scrimmages. So they have really drawn this out. But hey, I can't really complain because we're dying for football. So,
I'm ready for it.
but so far this spring, what players will kind of alternate? What players have had the best spring to you so far?
I've heard a lot of really good things. Stating the obvious, Cam Coleman first and
Oh,
foremost. It's just I hear he's everything that was advertised plus some, and I'm just excited to see him get to use the uniform.
yeah. The funny thing about Ken Coleman is it's one of those things where everyone is talking about him, and I'm just like, can we please stop talking about him? And then I think it to myself, I'm just like, what am I saying? This
Yeah,
guy
we
is a
want to hear
stud.
about it,
Yeah,
Cameron.
what am I
Damn
doing?
it.
So no,
That's
that's
crazy talk.
totally.
I never thought I'd hear something so crazy come out of your mouth.
Oh, you
No,
no, you
we
don't
need
believe that.
nothing but
You
We
know,
need
you've
we need nothing but good news coming from the wide receiver
yeah.
room, and to hear that from a freshman,
Oh,
I'm ecstatic.
yeah, and the thing is there's reports of his ability and technique, and he is just out there dominating. And yet they're talking about how there's so many things in his technique that they can improve. And so, oh, I am just ecstatic to see what this guy can do with some more of the off season to learn, as well as once we get halfway through the season and just learning from example, because the kid looks like he's got a good head on his shoulders. And so I 100% agree with you. Cam Coleman, he's the talk of the town, and he's the belle of the ball, and he is going to be fun to watch. And it
He's going
sounds
to
like
be the
he's
subject of a lot of discussion.
oh yeah, oh yeah, until he
Yeah,
until he does something to prevent us from talking about him.
I don't
It,
foresee that happening.
yeah, no, no. I would say it is safe to say that up to this point, he is the most talked about, polarizing Auburn player since Bo Nix. You
You
can't
know
you
what?
can't prove me wrong.
I'd happen to agree with you. No, I really couldn't. I think I'd have to agree with you. There's a
Yeah.
lot of hype around Bo Nix, and I think there's even more hype around Cam Coleman right now.
Oof, I don't know if there's more. That Bo Nix hype, man, coming into his freshman year was insane. Just because of the
Well,
legacy factor. Just the legacy factor and
yeah, it
what
had a
his
lot to
dad
do
is.
with it, but there's no legacy factor with Cam Coleman, and he's getting a lot of praise, a lot of
Yeah.
hype, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. So I'm going to stick to the on the offensive side of the ball and talk about Jeremiah Wright. Now, this is a guy that come in those 5 games that Caddy was the interim coach. Jeremiah Wright became a completely different player. He was that guy on the offensive line that we had been begging for all year long, and he was just mean and just was dominating people. And last year we were wanting a lot of the same. I think he got a little hurt. I think he was trying to learn
He's got
some of
nagging
the
injuries.
yeah, some of the blocking schemes, because the guy started as a defensive tackle, so he's probably learning some of the more advanced, blocking schemes, and we didn't really see him too much. He played last year, but he wasn't his presence that we all wanted. Well, word is this dude is putting it together, and he was one of the players that we
Good.
mentioned a few weeks ago. I can't remember what episode exactly it was that I said needed to step up, and someone who I thought was going to be a big part of this team. And I'm glad to see that he is getting the praise and the recognition right now, because again, we need some just meanness on the offensive line. I think we're going to be good, but we just want that meanness.
I think him and Percy Lewis are going to make a friggin'
Oh,
dynamic duo name for themselves on that offensive line. Because
oh
I've heard nothing but great things about Jeremiah Wright as well,
yeah,
but I've heard equally impressive things about Percy Lewis.
yeah.
He is a big human being.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the thing is though, he's on the opposite side of Jeremiah, right? So we're spreading that love of across the line.
Yes,
So he'll be out there with Wade on the left side, I believe. So that should be really good. Is he your next player, or were you just mentioning him because he's a big
I was
human
just
being?
mentioning him because we were talking about offensive line. He's a big mofo, that's for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
My next guy is actually on the defense, Woodyard.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of heard a
Yeah.
lot of good things about him. It's like it sounds like he's starting to piece it together and get a handle on the college ball life. And I couldn't be more excited. He was a huge recruit a couple years ago, and he was a lot of things were expected out of him. He just wasn't able to crack that rotation or get a handle on everything. And it sounds like he's just finally starting to piece it together,
Yeah.
and everything's slowing down for him. So he's able to showcase what he's actually able to do.
He was the guy that we flipped from Alabama, right? Or was that
Yes,
Wooden? I think it was Woodyard.
uh, I think yeah, it was Woodyard.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've heard some good things about him as well, specifically more recently. And hey, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. especially at the linebacker position. We got a lot of experience there,
Yes.
but we need some of the young guys, and hopefully he can be a leader going into next year. And so, I mean, I'm all for it, man. Anytime these players step up, it's good to hear. Now, I hopefully he's not one of those springtime superheroes, where they're just
Let's hope not.
you hear about them constantly, and then all of a sudden, come season time, they disappear. So I hope he's not one of those players.
Fingers
Uh,
crossed.
Fingers crossed. For me, I'm going to stick on the defensive side as well. Probably going to steal one of your picks, but Champ Anthony, man, they cannot stop talking about this guy. They're talking about him grabbing the number 2 or number 3 cornerback position, depending on how you look at it. I know Keontae Scott is going to be the second person or the first person, depending on position. But man, I still want him to move back to nickel. But Champ Anthony is right there in that two deep rotation, and he is turning heads and looking really good. I believe we got him out of junior college, right? I think so.
Champ Anthony's not even ringing a bell for me. I'm drawing a
Oh,
blank, to be honest with you.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't
No.
tell you off the top of my head.
He. Yeah. They've been talking about how he has just been one of those shutdown corners and is just improving week in and week out. And so, with
He
us
was JUCO.
losing JD Rim last week, this might be why, because this guy's stepping up.
That'd be good to hear. I would love to have a lot more depth at that corner, and to hear that someone's coming in and making a name for themselves, especially when you got a guy like Kay and Lee coming back, who
Oof.
seemed to piece it together really quickly last year, um, with carrying momentum into this year. It's refreshing to hear that you got guys that are comfortable with stepping up and stepping on some toes, and
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. That's for damn sure.
Heck yeah. Who's your next player?
This is actually my last player.
Okay.
Yeah, Peyton Thorne, man.
Uh,
Literally nothing bad has come out of camp about Peyton Thorne,
mm,
and I think that's one of the greatest
no.
things for an Auburn fan, to hear that a quarterback who a lot of people did not like last year actually step up and improve. I think him missing spring last year really hindered his ability and development, and with him having a full season under his belt in the SEC under Hugh Freeze, coming into the next year as the incumbent, I think it's just huge news that he's actually starting to do what we wanted him to do.
So I could not disagree with you more on the fact that you hear nothing but good things coming out of camp. Have you just been paying attention to Sunshine Pumpers? Because that's the only time you're going to hear anything good about Peyton Thorne. They allowed them to watch the entire practice last week, and Mike G of the War Report was talking about how he saw Peyton Thorne throw 3 interceptions in one practice. I'm sorry. What?
This is practice, Cameron.
Practice, not the game, not the game that we love.
This is how you. This
But
is
we're
how you
talking
iron
about
out the wrinkles, bro.
practice, dude. You should not be throwing an interception in practice. Not a single interception in practice.
Well,
I'm
then
sorry.
that would just. I think that would bear worse news for our defensive backs if there was no turnovers in the secondary.
Yeah,
I don't
because
see
because
interceptions
Tom
in
Brady
practice as a
not
bad
throwing an
thing.
interception against the Patriots defense made them terrible. I'm sorry, the defense can
That's an
be
unfair
great.
comparison, Cameron.
The defense
You're
can
being
be
ridiculous.
great if you don't throw interceptions in practice. You're playing against a
Mm.
great
I
quarterback.
understand they
That
can.
would be great. Oh,
I,
dude.
I still think it's okay to throw interceptions in practice.
Uh,
It's better practice than a friggin' game, and
yeah,
you can't
but
argue
okay.
that.
Okay. Let's take a bet here. I guarantee you Peyton Thorne is going to throw interceptions in games this year.
Well, I
So
mean, it's kind of hard to predict against that because it's very likely that it
I
happens.
know. but he's going to have a multi-interception game. So it's not just practice that we're talking about. And Mike G was even talking about how they were the same kind of interceptions you saw last year, where you're just like, what are you doing? So I've heard good things about Peyton Thorne. I've heard good things about
I'm
Peyton
keeping the
Thorne,
faith, Cameron.
and
I'm keeping the faith.
I am cautiously optimistic. Maybe in I'm trying to force myself to be cautiously optimistic because right now I'm just pessimistic about Peyton Thorne because
Everything.
oh man, he's one of the subjects we're going to talk about a little bit here. And I want to get to my other two players. I'm going to save some more Peyton Thorne stuff for after this because man, I think we're on two different pages with Peyton Thorne. And
Clearly.
yeah, so I'm gonna go on to the players that are actually having a good spring, and the players that are going to have a positive impact on this team this year. I'm going to stick to the offense and offensive line. Tyler Johnson, redshirt freshman. He was a coup. He was one of those Hugh Freeze steals there at the end of recruiting cycle last year. He's playing really, really good. And I got to say, Josh, it's kind of nice to have several tackles on the roster that we feel comfortable with.
Yes, it's very refreshing to see these players on offensive line actually making noise in a good way.
Yeah.
Very refreshing.
And the thing is Hugh Freeze is not resting on his laurels. He's gone and we're projected to land this number. Oh, they were saying like he's like the number 18 player in the recruiting class at offensive tackle that I heard. I can't remember his name.
Shoal something.
Yeah. And so he's not even stopping, and we already got Dice. So bring him in, man. We want the tackles. So, and Tyler Johnson is just that first high school tackle that we brought in last year, and he's already turning heads. So he's probably not going to make a huge impact this year. Hugh Freeze does like to rotate his offensive linemen, so we'll see him. But man, it sounds like he is going to be a stalwart next year, and he's having a really good spring.
Well, let's friggin' go.
Heck yeah. And then the other guy, who is probably Zach Blackerby's favorite player outside of the baby goat himself, Sylvester Smith. There's talk of him being the starting safety over Laquan.
Whoa.
What's his name? The guy that transferred from Texas.
No, not Treadwell. Robinson, Laquan Robinson.
No, that's the JUCO. I'm talking about the safety that transferred from Texas. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. I had it. But there's talk about him starting over this guy. And you know what? I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it because he's younger, he's more hungry, and he chose Auburn first. So I'm all for it. Sylvester Smith has been just getting tons of hype since the ball game. And there's a few times that I buy into the Zach Blackerby Kool-Aid that I shouldn't, but this is one of those things. Zach he's rarely wrong about his DBs, man. Think about it. He's got a good track record on picking out these DBs that do really good, and so I really want this kid to just nail it and to just be a great leader and a great player on that defensive side. So.
I think yeah. Sylvester Smith, I've heard a lot of good things about him as well. Being a redshirt freshman as well, he has that time under Hugh Freeze. He knows what he wants to do on the defense, and so I mean, it's just I'm for it. That's all I can say is we need as much help as we can back there, and I'll die on that hill.
Yeah, no, I mean we talked about it last week, talking about how you can't have enough depth on the backside of your defense. We got hurt a little bit last year when we had Pritchett out, and we also had Jalen Simpson out, and
Jaron Thompson is the name, by the way.
Yeah, Jaron Thompson. There it is. But yeah, so you can't have enough depth back there. But okay, so now that we're done with the good players, let's talk more about Peyton Thorne. he is still our QB1. Are we okay with that? Apparently you are.
I
You know,
am. I am.
you're a little low in your camera. Are you on your knees or are you in a chair? Because it seems like you're on your knees when we talk about
You're seeing
Peyton
the camera
Thorne.
on my laptop.
Huh.
That's
Okay.
why I'm a little lower. But
So
you got a little dirty there, Cameron.
I
I want
did,
to slap you in
I
the mouth.
did, I
I
did,
want to
but
slap you in the mouth.
but we don't even try to tell people that this is a kid friendly show. You know, I don't know if there's any
No.
kids out there looking or watching this video, but the thing is you are definitely you are
In fact, I'm gonna
buying
smack you in the
into.
mouth on Saturday. I'm gonna
Oh,
smack you in the
okay.
mouth on Saturday in
Come,
front of your
yeah,
kid.
yeah, bring it.
He's gonna see it.
I don't think so. Either way, you're loving Peyton Thorne. You're loving what you hear, and you're drinking
Hey,
the
I don't
Kool Aid.
love Peyton Thorne. You're putting words in my. I don't love Peyton Thorne. I'm getting behind our QB1 is what I'm doing. You and me, you know me. You know what I was saying last year about Peyton
Yeah,
Thorne. I wanted Robbie in or even Holden in
and
all year last year.
all off season you've been saying it, and now all of a sudden you're just like, oh, Peyton Thorne. You
No,
know,
I all off
nothing
season
but
I've
good
been
things.
cautiously optimistic about Peyton Thorne because I have heard more good things than I have bad things.
That's fair. That's fair.
And you can't deny the fact that spring practice is very important for a player's development
Mm,
and his chemistry with his other players.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's only his second year on campus, so okay, first spring, okay, all right. But the thing is he's had nothing but been set up for success at this point. This year, okay,
Was he? I was about to say, was he
we
set up
cannot
last
talk.
year,
We're
Cameron?
not going
Because
to
I
talk
don't think
about
so.
Montgomery and what he did, but I'm talking this year. He has done nothing but been set up for success. And what has he done this year for us? He embarrassed us against Maryland. Okay, when the whole
Different coaching staff.
I don't care. The whole fan base, it was still this year. The whole fan base was behind him and thought, okay,
But you're you're
all
you're
right.
you're combining the two. We said we're not going to talk about Philip Montgomery and what he didn't do for
No,
Peyton
I'm talking
Thorne,
about Peyton
and
Thorne
even
and the eggs that he continues to lay.
well, Cameron, he's going to surprise you this year. I guarantee it. However, I will say right here, right now, so it's not twisted, so you don't think I'm on my knees for Peyton Thorne. As soon as that man starts friggin' laying eggs, I'm going to be calling for his head. There's no excuse
Good.
for him. Like there's zero room for error right now.
Yeah.
He's fighting for his life as a college football quarterback and probably an NFL quarterback, which I don't think
And
he's going to be.
And the thing is he's named the starter. I'm gonna get behind him, and I really do hope that he does good. Me criticizing
Yeah,
him
you're going to get
and
behind him.
me being upset with him is one thing, but when he is for sure our quarterback, I want him to have success. I want to be wrong. I want to say that you are right where you need to be yourself, and you are rightly so. Being a huge Peyton Thorne fan, but
Oh my God.
but right now I'm just not there. I'm just not prepared for this. I would rather see someone young. It's hard to say because you want the team to be successful, and based off of everything everyone is saying, Peyton Thorne gives us the best chance to win. And
That's exactly what it comes down to right now. The best chance to win is the incumbent.
right. But if we're winning despite him, I kind of feel like we just got to see what's out there, because there are practice players and there are game players. And I don't think Peyton Thorne is either.
Well,
It,
I would love for you to be proven wrong.
and it sounds like, and you know what, we only have a small sample size, but it seems like Hank Brown is a gamer, and maybe not a practicer, but when he gets in the game, gets the lights on him. Maybe he is the baby goat. So, but hey, Peyton Thorne for now is our QB1. He's going to start the spring game. He's
Get
probably going to
behind it.
start the season. I hope he freaking tears it up. I really do. And you know what? Whenever he has an amazing year and is a finalist for the Davy O'Brien Award, I am going to pull a skip or a Colin Cowherd and tell you that I believed in this man from the very beginning. There was not
Shout out to
one
Cam
point did
Newton.
I doubt him. And I will say it right here in this camera to these people, and everyone will know that I'm a big fat liar like Colin Cowherd. But
What a freaking fraud that guy was that year.
gosh,
He was
that
the
year,
biggest. He was
oh,
the
he's
biggest
every
Newton
year.
critic in the world. And as soon as he friggin' won the Heisman, beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl, he was just he was on his knees.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, so speaking of A-Day game though, we're we've already discussed Peyton Thorne. He's going to be the starter. You know what what positions do you think need to have a big game for A-Day to be successful? Because last year was just a rotten egg. The weather was terrible. It was poor showing. Couldn't complete a pass. So what needs to happen this year for A-Day to be successful, and what positions are going to help us be successful?
So based off of the format, Hugh Freeze says the A day is going to be played in, which is the defense will start the game with 27 points and the offense has to catch up.
Like last year.
I would, I kind of feel like he's going to be gunning for an air show, in my opinion, and I really, really, really want to see the wide receivers show the frick out
Yeah.
because it was rough last year. And it's just well, I'm ready for an Auburn wide receiver to just come out and friggin' dominate, and that's what I'm looking for in the A day game is to see these wide receivers run their routes. When they get the hands on the ball, they catch it instead of just dropping it, because that was a big part of it last year too. Cameron Peyton Thorne
Yeah.
was able to get the
That's
ball to
fair.
the receivers, but they would drop them, and they were breadbasket balls too. They weren't like ducks or just dead rabbits. They were in their breadbasket, and they still found a way to friggin' drop it. So I really want to see the wide receivers come out on Saturday and just show everybody that wide receivers from last year that's no longer even a topic because it's the wide receivers in 2024.
Yeah. No, wide receiver is the top of my position list that needs to have a good A-Day game. And you know what? I would love to see them create separation. I would love to see that. But at the same time, there were so many contested balls last year, or the fact that they weren't creating separation and still not being able to make the
Yeah,
catch. I kind of want to see that more than them separating. Them separating is just, hey, the defense had a bad game, or the defense had a bad moment. I feel like them making contested catches is what's going to happen in the SEC. Defensive backs are too good for you to get open and create separation. You're going to have to make those contested catches, and the wide receivers need to show that. Now, everything points to Robert Lewis being a dog, and so I think that's going to happen. Cam Coleman, we know what he's going to do. Hopefully, we get to really see it in A-Day game. I wouldn't be opposed to him getting 15 passes thrown his way. Just leave him out there with
really.
first, second, third, fourth, fifth string. Just leave him out there and just run them wild, man. And the fans would go nuts, man. So I totally agree with you. Wide receivers need to be it. Leading into wide receivers, you got to have a quarterback that throws that ball and gets it to them. So quarterback position has to be the one, man. Has to be another position that really does it. And it doesn't have to just be Peyton Thorne. It's got to be Hank Brown. It's got to be Holden Gerner. It's got to be
Walker
um,
White,
White. Yeah. So
Heismanberg.
so, but the quarterback position, I think we all want to see them making some good throws. Okay, I don't care if they throw interceptions. I know I just joked that you should be throwing interceptions in practice, but I want to see them take some risks because I think that, especially Peyton Thorne, when he threw interceptions last year, they were like, "What were you doing?"
Forced. They were
But
forced throws.
yeah, and they were, well, no, not necessarily forced. They were just stupid
No, he was trying to make a
passes.
play happen, and
Yeah,
they
stupid
weren't good
passes.
passes. He was trying to make something happen, and he had butter on his hands every time he threw a freaking
But
interception.
but there were so many moments where Peyton Thorne was so indecisive because he didn't want to throw the ball. I don't want to see that. I want to see someone that's decisive and goes out there and commands the offense. And the quarterback has got to be leading the charge there. So I think quarterback is definitely that position that needs to have a great 8A game.
Yeah, for sure, I would agree with you. Kind of in the same lines as quarterback and wide receivers. I want to see the secondary show out.
Yeah.
Because if the secondary shows out and the receivers are still creating that separation and still catching contested balls and still making plays, then the quarterback is still able to, and the DBs are playing good, I would feel a lot more comfortable if all three of those position groups were actually doing their damn jobs. Because I mean, we're good. Like the way the defensive backs play is going to show you what the wide receivers are capable of. And if the defensive backs and receivers are playing good themselves, that's also going to show us what our quarterback is able to do, be it with his feet or through the air.
Yeah. No, I
And so
think you're right.
I think DBs they got to come out and hold strong. I'm really excited to watch what happens on Saturday.
Yeah. For me, defensive line. It's less about them needing to have a good game and me just wanting to see, do we have enough bodies? Do we have the bodies and the men that can actually make a difference? And so I think they have to have a good game just to give us some faith, just so we have faith in this unit, because it's hard to say that we're a solid defensive line, team right now, and we have a lot of question marks and a lot of holes. And so I think that can go a long way to easing some of the fans' worries, if you will. Yeah, no, I think you're totally right there. I can't argue with anything that you said. Um, so spring game, hopefully, by the time everybody's listening, everybody knows how good it went. Um, so what else can be said other than us hoping that it's a good showing and it's a lot better than last year? I think we can both agree on that.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm looking for a lot of things, and I'm hoping a lot of things happen to kind of like put everybody at ease.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, switching gears and switching sports, let's talk about our Auburn basketball team. We kind of have some stuff happening right now. To start us off, we received news that Trey Donaldson is going to be entering the transfer portal. Um,
Kind of didn't see that one coming.
I didn't either. I thought Aiden Holloway, so maybe Aiden's going to be staying, or maybe both of them. Oh man, if both of them transfer, that's not good for us.
That's going to be a little rough.
But Trey Donaldson, man, he's been one of those players that I have wanted to step up, and he's been a player that I've really liked, and I think he has a lot that he can still prove, but definitely didn't live up to his potential, and especially what he showed in the tournament his freshman year. I thought we were going to see a completely different Trey Donaldson in both tournaments, the SEC and the NCAA tournament this year, but we just really didn't see it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it was rough. It was rough. It sucks losing him. Hopefully, that just paves the way for bigger and better players to come in. I'm not saying
Yeah.
Trey Donaldson's a bad player. I think I think he's a really good, a really serviceable point guard.
Yeah, definitely.
He did have some deficiencies when it came to driving the basket and creating shots for other players sometimes. But anytime you lose depth at the point guard position, especially from a player that you know can do some damage, it definitely does hurt.
And the thing is, the thing that sucks is we're still, waiting to see what players are going to be coming back. And so we
Yeah,
don't know if Aiden Holloway is going to be sticking around. We don't know if we're going to have to be replacing both of our starting point guards because both of them started at some points this year. And so it's a little scary. Speaking of players that are returning, we got some really good news this week, though.
Chad Baker Mazzara officially announced his decision to come back.
Yes.
I think that's just freaking huge. He can play either the two spot or the three spot. Obviously, he's a true small forward, But with losing a guard like that and Chad making the decision to come back, it just takes a little bit more pressure off on replacing a player of that caliber. And I think he's gonna have a good year in
Yeah.
2024, 2025.
Yeah, I would hate for what happened in the tournament to be the last thing that we remember of Chad, because he has just been one. He's been our favorite player this year, far and away one of
Oh,
our
hands
favorite
down.
players. So so glad that he's come back, and it's such a big. He's going to be a strength of this team, and
Yes.
he's probably going to be, depending on who comes back. If we somehow do get Broom back,
I'm holding out hope.
he'll be the clear number two, I think, as far as the
Yes.
scorer. And if Broom doesn't come back, it's the Chad Baker Bizarro show, and this dude could go off, and he will give us a show. He will give us a show.
Yep. No, there's no doubt about that. Chad is definitely electrifying and he's very entertaining to watch.
Yeah,
You can't take that away from him.
rumor is that Katie Johnson is leaving because he didn't want to share the spotlight and share the crazy mantra with anyone. And Chad was like, "Nah, dude, that's mine." And so Katie was like, "Eh."
That's a stupid take, Cameron.
Well, no, come on, think about it. Has had. He's kind of like KD in the sense that there's good Chad and there's bad Chad, and we've seen both sides of Chad. And which one are we gonna get?
The only bad Chad we saw was his antics in terms of attitude towards the opposing team. The
Yeah, because
bad
we never
KD
saw.
was that dude just went friggin' nuts and would either lose the ball under the rim or just throw out the most
Okay,
ridiculous
I don't want this
layup
to
under
be
the
a.
rim.
I don't. I was trying to make a joke. I don't want this to be a Chad Baker Mazara, bashing or anything like that. But Chad
Who's
had
bashing on Chad?
he had 2 games in a row that he tried behind the back
The
passes
backward
that
behind the
turned
back pass.
into turnovers. Okay, so he's had those moments, and he was starting to outshine KD in the maniac department. So
Yeah.
either way, I'm really glad he's coming back. I wanted him back. I'm super glad. I'm not gonna argue about it. He's back, and we're gonna be good. The Trey Donaldson thing is not gonna hurt too much. I thought it was gonna hurt a lot less when we were bringing in Pettiford, but Bruce kind of spoiled that this year and came out and said that Pettiford is going to be primarily playing shooting guard. He said that he might play some
I'm
point
okay
guard,
with
but
it.
it's going to be playing shooting guard.
He's a friggin' scorer. I'm okay with it.
Well, so the only downside to that, and oh man, it's it's the pessimist in me. I'll admit it's the pessimist in me. But they said the same thing about Aiden Holloway. Oh, he's a scorer, and then what does he do the first game of the year? Tears it up against Baylor, and so we were all thinking, this is it. But he fell into a slump. I don't want to lump Pettiford in there with Aiden or anything like that. But they're both very highly touted point guards that came in that are scoring point guards. They kind of have very similar comps, if you will. And so I'm a little worried on that front. I want Pettiford to put the Aiden Holloway freshman season out of my mind, and I want him to tear it up. And hopefully he does. And I'm excited for him. I'm not saying that. I'm excited for him. But we definitely do need some scoring. We need to find some scoring on this team for next year, because right now we don't have much. We had the lasagna show, and that's pretty much it.
Well, I think we'll have more scoring this coming year.
Oh, we
I
do have
do.
Denver
We're not
Jones.
going to have
That's
as many
right.
players to spread the ball around. Yep. And then apparently JP Pegues, a lot of traction him coming to Auburn, and that boy can freaking score.
Yeah. We're not talking about JJ Pegues, the defensive lineman for Ole Miss, who was once a tight end slash quarterback for Gus Malzahn. We're,
Love that
we're
kid.
talking about JP Pegues, and we talked about him a couple episodes ago as a potential transfer, and hopefully he does. And like you said, there's a lot of good things about him. So,
Yes.
well, we kind of thought that this episode was going to kind of fall a little short, but like always, we get to talking, and we're right around the
It's
mark
hard
we
to
want to
stop.
be, man. So, anything you want to add before we leave, Josh? You know,
Um,
anything about Peyton
just
Thorne you want to praise?
no, not praise. Just hope he has his head screwed on right.
Yeah.
The only other thing I want to add is War Damn Eagle.
War damn eagle, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so that way you are alerted every time we put a video out there. And until next week, again, War Eagle.